still there is, women have to fight for their place at the high table. There's a lot of atrocities. So what is the real status of women in our country?
Rani Velanachia, the only thing to commemorate her is we have a trade now. Rani Velanachia Express now. Nothing is documented. How will somebody, let us imagine I take my daughter there. I show, no, this is the place where 250 years back Rani Velanachia she defeated, and nothing to show.
Recently when Ponniyin Selvan was released, there was a totally unnecessary debate about whether Rajaraja Soran was a Hindu.
Kalki would have felt very sad from up, seeing what is happening. What has it come to in Tamil Nadu? What are you doing? So after the movie has come, then you must have seen the other side of debate. Why did Maniratha make an Hindutva movie?
How often do you go to your farm?
அம்மா என்ன இவ்வளோ பெருசாயிருச்சு ஜல்லிக்கட்டு காலனி இவ்வளோ பெருசாயிருச்சுன்னு my mother told me அதனால் நீ வாரம் வந்து கேட்க வேண்டிய கேள்விடா நீ மாதத்துக்கு ஒருக்கா வந்து you come every month once you come and boss over me saying you gave this feed too much, you gave that feed too much, every week you come.
கோவிலுக்குள்ள எல்லாரும் அனுப்பிச்சதை யாரோலாம் கிரெடிட் எடுத்துக்கிறாங்க, யாருக்கு கிரெடிட் பண்ணுமோ அவளுக்கு போல, அதை பற்றி ஏதாவது எழுதுவேங்களா?
சார் நம்முடைய அந்த தமிழ்நாடு 2.0 புத்தகத்தில் அது இருக்குது சார்.
Who is your favorite historical hero? You know, this is going to think and answer because this is going to go viral.
Rajendra Cholan, he went one up than his father. So I take inspiration. Okay, we should bring our son like that.
Now, after 20-25 years, can we see you as the next PM of India? Someone from Tamil Nadu after a long time.
Nature knows where it has to take you. And where it takes you, wherever it takes you, it wants you to live in the highest of palace, shaking hands with the greatest of American presidents. If that is karma for you, you have to do it.
How are you going to identify that right talented people for the next generation of your party?
Can you sacrifice yourself in the process? You might not get anything in the next 20 years.
I'm really very honored to be moderating this discussion on the occasion of the Chennai launch of Dr. Vikram Sampath's book, Brave Hearts of Bharat, Vignettes from Indian History, a Penguin Viking publication. And I'm even more fortunate to be engaging in a conversation with both the author and Shri K Annamalai, State President, Tamil Nadu BJP. A bit about the book. I got an opportunity to read the book last week from cover to cover. And I must tell you that Vikram Sampath's painstakingly researched, extremely well-written book, Brave Hearts of Bharat, is a must-read for every Indian. It is nothing short of a seminal work by the author. And if you want to know what it is about, he has profiled 15 brave hearts. This is from the pre-independence era. Brave hearts, heroes and sheroes who stood up to the invaders and resolutely fought for their land, their people, and their civilization. Their contribution really should be etched in letters of gold, but somewhere along the line it's all lost in the miss of time and half forgotten. So I think Vikram has done a great service by turning the spotlight on the contribution of these 15 great people on whose shoulders we stand. And I think it's a great, because so much of it, the feeling I got when I read the book is how little we know of Indian history. There's been a selective narrative that's been dished out to us. So many parts of history are either blacked out or relegated to the background. So this was truly an eye-opener. The other thing is that Vikram's book is not like any other history book that makes you yawn and want to skip the pages and read between the lines. This is not that kind of a book. It had me riveted from start to finish. The accounts are absolutely fascinating, and there's a certain fullness and a sense of completion that you get when you read the book, because the way he approaches it, it's very, very comprehensive. You don't have to look anywhere else. You understand the time frame, you understand the dynasties, their lineage, what brought them here, what attracted them here, that they came invading our country. And it tells you a whole lot more about the people. It's a very unbiased account. He talks about the foibles of these leaders. For instance, Lalita Aditya is believed to have told his subjects not to take any instructions from him when he was intoxicated. So that is a kind of, honest portrayal that you get. There was another leader who divulged her plans about entering into a treaty with the invaders. That news was leaked out before she had crystallized her thoughts, and she ended up getting stabbed. So he talks about the foibles of these people, these leaders. It's their very human qualities. What happened to Ahilyabai Holkar when her daughter decided to commit sati. She was married at 8 and she became widowed at age 29. Her father-in-law pleaded with her not to commit sati because he said he had lost his son, and if she too, this was a girl that he had groomed and taught her all the skills of statecraft, diplomacy, and administration. She had learnt everything from him. So he said, if the son is gone and if you too decide to commit sati, then where would I be? So she decided not to commit sati, and she changed her mind. But many years later, when her daughter was widowed, she was absolutely determined to jump into the sacrificial fire. And the reason she gave was she told her mother, "Ma, you are old, and if I do not commit sati, I would have let this moment pass, this moment where I could die with honor." And therefore, she was absolutely determined. And Ahilyabai Holkar had to watch her daughter committing sati. So these are the kind of very, very human stories that you come across in Brave Hearts of Bharat. They were great leaders, they were fighters, they led from the front, they handled all the invaders very bravely, but then they were also faced with problems of betrayal, intrigue, and personal problems like this. So this is a book that people should read. There is no dearth of inspiration in the book. It gives us a better sense of Indian history, and it helps to fill in all the gaps, so at least some of the gaps. I'm sure Vikram has a sequel planned for later. So much about the book, and thank you, Vikram, for writing it. Yeah. So I'd like to now start with the panel discussion, and I'd like to ask you, Mr. Annamalai, how do you view a work like this? What is its place in, given the current historiography, which is selective?
Sudha madam, thank you so much. Many congratulations to Vikram ji. The reason is not just a writer, not just an author, ma'am. If you look at this canvas, the quality of books he has written, music, you just explained. To Veer Savarkar is a very deep book, madam. It's a very deep book. Both the parts you read it. It's not very easy one to read. Kind of research he has done. And now this book. I'm simply amazed how a writer can jump from one genre to other. From the Mysore, the Royal Palace, to Veena, to biography of Balachandra ji. Then he went all the way to Veer Savarkar story. And now the Brave Hearts of Bharat. This is something we are sitting somewhere near a very special person. Not a very, people write books. People write a simple lineage of books. But this is a very special kind of writing, very high quality writing. That's how, when I read the book, like you said, cover to cover, he was kind enough to send a book. He was insisting that I should read it before coming. How can somebody jump from one genre to other? That's the first question I had. Second, ma'am, the big G very clearly says, I don't know, he has taken it as a habit, last 3-4 books, to take on a biased narrative to correct it. This is not a very easy thing to do. And especially I know when last time the book, Veer Savarkarji's book we are releasing in Chennai, the same day he got, his father has called me before I was coming to the stage, got admission to the Royal Historical Society. He got admission there. Then all hell broke loose after that. All the writers, because for 70 years they were having a very unhindered way of life. They all joined at one end, started picking up the book, started writing this, that and everything. That is the time I felt very happy also. The historians like Vikram Sampath were put in national map, global map, right after that incident has happened. They are put in the global map, they are put in the national map. This kind of writers trying to correct a historical narrative. Now, these are all stories in Tamil Nadu textbook, what he has covered about Rajendra Cholan, Rajaraja Cholan, and Veelanachayarji. It is all half paragraph story. When I go back to my school reading, it is all half para, maximum 1 page.
Yes.
We struggled ourselves in the celebration for the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 75th year of independence. We visited all the places, at least in Tamil Nadu, what Vikramji has mentioned. Very biased narrative, not very clear, ideologically coherent piece of writing. People have written their own things in mind. So he's trying to correct it. It's not a very easy thing, not a simple book writing. He's taking on forces, trying to set things right. And it will be appreciated. Even Veer Savarkarji's thing, when I was talking in the stage, I mentioned, the book's quality, people will talk after 20 years, after 25 years. Some books are meant like that. Like an old wine, it ages, it becomes special with time. So now, maybe this book right now, I was told it's already a national bestseller. We are not even releasing the book in Chennai. It is already 4th print. 1 print over, 2 print over, 3rd print over. It is already in 4th print. It is doing a massive success, madam. Yesterday in Coimbatore airport, I saw Chennai airport. I keep observing where the books are there. Everywhere people are buying. Somebody in Chennai brought it, madam. Special book, written by a special person. I don't know, made it an intentional habit to take on forces. This book I enjoyed very much because it is very simple in writing. It's a very easy read. Savarkar is something I felt very deeply connected. I took a lot of time to read it. But this was a very straight through easy reading. But very enjoyable reading. Oh, correct. I saw in this book, I saw in that book. He's connecting, he's giving a new perspective. That's how I saw this book, madam. Thank you.
I have a question for you, Vikram. Now you have, in this book, covered, you've profiled a pan-Indian list of leaders from every part of India, starting from Lalit Aditya of Kashmir, Lachit Bafur Khan, Assam, then Manipur, Bhagya Chandra, and then down south you have Martanda Varma, Rajaraja Soran, and then in the Velu Nachiyar, and also in the west you have Kanoji Angre and others. And the most heartening thing is that you have 7 women women out of the 15. I'm glad that they didn't have to ask for reservation to be featured in a book, because it's not happening in other. So was this shortlist, did it happen by accident or was it a conscious, how did you arrive at this?
Thank you, Sudhaji. Very good evening to everyone. It's indeed a very, very special moment for me to be in Chennai every time. It's my paternal home, my father's hometown. So the feeling of warmth that I come here every time, that's always very, very striking. And every time to have the support and blessings of someone like Shri Annamalai, who I think we are fortunate to be in the times and actually witness a dharmic and an Indic renaissance happening in Tamil Nadu under his leadership. If there is any hope, there's any beacon of hope, as the person who introduced said, I think he's sitting right here, and for us to be in that presence, I think is a great honor. Thank you, sir, for gracing this occasion. Sudhaji, to your question, just think of it. In your growing up years, when you were taught about Indian history and the wars and battles that we as India and Indians fought, almost all the wars that you or your children or grandchildren remember by heart will be the ones where India or Indians lost. Right, from the battle of Hydaspes with Porus and Alexander down to the myth of that whole Aryan invasion theory, that it starts from there perhaps. Then, the Arab invasion of Sindh. Everybody knows of Muhammad bin Qasim and 712, how he captured Sindh. We know about the battle of Tarain, where Muhammad Ghori, we've heard all about the 17 times Muhammad Ghazni came and invaded India. Ghori's victory. We know about the battles of Panipat. We know about the Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar, Anglo-Mysore Wars, Anglo-Maratha Wars, Anglo-Sikh Wars. Go on naming one laundry list of all the battles where Bharatiyas lost. Right? Now today, one of the only pre-bronze civilizations which is still alive and kicking, if we are still around, there must have been some battles we won also. Some amount of courage that we as Indians and as a civilization we presented to all the invaders. So if that is the case, why did these stories of courage, these stories of resistance and valor, why did they disappear from our national consciousness? Why was our history or us made to feel that sense of self-loathing that we are a land of losers? History has a very, very important role. As you mentioned, most people don't take it seriously. Even I, as a student, I don't think I was a very good student in history. Most history classes would mean kneeling down outside class because I just couldn't memorize who succeeded whom and which battle was fought in which year. That's how by rote we are made to learn. But as you grow up, you realize that history is that mirror in which we can identify ourselves as a nation, as a civilization, as a people. Its role is very important. And the forces that Annamalai sir mentioned, they understand this. And that is why history is manipulated in such a way so that it conditions your mind. It makes you think this way that we are no-gooders. So that is one major, fault line, so to say, in Indian historiography, which in a very small, humble way I've tried to address in this book. The second issue is this whole Delhi centricity of our narrative. Just yesterday I was so irritated seeing the news channels. Some municipal elections in Delhi becomes national news, whereas our cities can go under flood, under deluge. My hometown, Bengaluru, does not have an elected council for the last 2 years. The national media doesn't bother about that or raise that issue. Assam can have floods. But a little JNU, somebody threw something on someone, and that becomes the whole narrative of India. And this is not just about media, it's even in history. If you actually, I'd urge all of you to go to the NCRT website. All the textbooks are freely downloadable. If you just download and see the coverage that most parts of India get, the south of India is most neglected. The Cholas get a few lines. All the other dynasties, Shatavahanas, Rashtrakutas, Pallavas, Chalukyas, they all just come in a map. They are just shown that this is where they ruled and this is the region. The Marathas, the grand Marathas, from whom the British actually took India and not from the Mughals, they probably get half a paragraph. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, the greatest icon of this country, all the coverage that he receives in today's NCRT books is just a photograph. One photograph with a caption underneath saying, who is this person? So you imagine that a young child who's studying in CBSE, which is, the state syllabus may be different in each state, it may be different, but by and large, the central syllabus, this is all that a child is knowing about our heroes, and also about the different regions. The Northeast, how many of us, if I just do a random, poll here and say, can we name 2 Ahom rulers of Assam? I don't know, would anyone have an idea who 2 Ahoms Do we know they were Ahoms, that they ruled Assam for 600 years and ensured that Assam was never conquered by anybody? And it's thanks to, I think, this government and the government of Assam that today Lachit Barphukan, whose 400th birth anniversary was celebrated just a few weeks back, who defeated the mighty imperial army of Aurangzeb, one of the biggest armies that he sent under Raja Ram Singh of Jaipur, was pushed back, and the Mughals or anybody, Afghans, whoever came into Assam, they could never occupy Assam. So where is Lachit Barphukan in anybody's imagination? Nobody knows. The Northeast, who are the people of Manipur, who are the rulers in Nagaland, Tripura? When we say history of India, I think the history of India needs to snatch her narrative back from Delhi. I have nothing against Delhi; it's a beautiful place. But then it should give a more inclusive kind of a approach to all regions of India. All regions should be represented, and that is how history is also a tool of national integration to ensure. Now, a young student who comes from Manipur or Assam to Delhi, every road they see is a Tughlaq road and a Mughal, Aurangzeb lane and this and that. And in the books too, their region, their rulers, their heroes, their culture has no representation in the books they read. So what is the kind of feeling that that person would have in the national capital of India? So I think that was another important fault line to address. And the third one, which I tried to address, was what you mentioned, Sudhaji, about history being only his story, where her story does not get the due that it deserves. Women and their contributions to India, her civilizational story, seldom get the importance that it does. So that's why I tried to balance this out with the 7 women in the book. So I've tried to cover almost all parts of the country, starting from the 7th century with Lalitaditya Muktapida of the Karkota dynasty. I don't remember having read about Karkota dynasty or about Lalitaditya Muktapida, who was called the second Samudragupta and the second Alexander of India, who had a mighty empire of Kashmir, almost covering more than half of the Indian subcontinent in the 7th century. From him on to Naiki Devi of Gujarat, who defeated Muhammad Ghori in 1178, to Lachit Borphukan in the east, to all the 4 South Indian states, Rani Abbakka from my state of Karnataka, Martandavarma, the Rajendra Cholan, and Velu Nachiyar, and Rudramma Devi of Warangal, who is also featured. So I've tried to cover as many ignored parts of the country and also bring these stories where these were tales of courage, of pushback, of resistance, that we were not sitting ducks all through our long march of history, that everybody who came, we just, kept covering, we were all disunited, we had the caste system. This is the usual narrative that is brought about, and that we succumb to every invasion, which is not true, which has no historical basis. And this is just a small attempt to bring some of these stories in the mainstream. This is, in fact, to choose these, it was more of whom to leave out rather than whom to choose, because there are so many unsung heroes and heroines. And I just hope, as I mentioned even in the prologue, that this book spurs many more scholars, many more historians to start picking up this entire aspect of bringing out the local stories, local heroes from different parts of India.
Mr. Annamalai, I have a question for you. Now, there were 7 exceptional women leaders profiled in the book. And they were not just, dummies or fronts for anybody. They led from the front. They led their forces into battle. They negotiated terms. They were extraordinary role models. Now, several centuries later, and 75 years after independence, of course, we've had 1 woman prime minister, 2 presidents, and I think about 16 chief ministers. But on the ground, women chief ministers. But on the ground, still there is, women have to fight for their place at the high table. There's a lot of atrocities perpetrated, gender violence is being perpetrated, and whether you're educated, uneducated, rich, poor, women are treated patronizingly. So what is the real status of women in our country, according to you, at this point in time?
Madam, just when Vikramji was talking about, out of the 15 brave hearts selected, 7 are women heroes who are selected. I was just thinking when I was reading in my textbook or when I was growing up, we hardly had any women heroes to look up to. We hardly had anybody. And it was a male-dominated society. Even now it is more, but slowly it is changing. But not to the way that we want society to change, not the rapid way which we wanted to change. You're looking at heroes, you're looking at sports stars, you're looking at cinema stars, you're looking everywhere. You see only the woman heroes, very, very limited scale here and there. Let us put ourselves in the shoes of a school-going woman child, 7th class, 8th class, 9th class. So when a guy puts up posters of Sachin Tendulkar or somebody, a cinema star or a sports star or somebody, putting up at room daily watching and I want to be like him, what does a girl put up in the room or keep in the heart? I think that is very important, ma'am. That is very important because the role models that you show them, where the girl child aspires to be of a similar nature, cultivates qualities, traits, and develop an attitude like that, and slowly come up. That is where we as a country, we have failed, ma'am. For a long time, long time, we have failed. I remember when I was in US recently, I went to a park. It's a national park, where it's called the Muyur National Park near San Francisco. And the country itself is hardly 250 years old. But that national park is all-woman park where the people are there to take care of the national park. Redwood trees, 2,000, 3,000 years old trees. But the way they have documented that story, the way everywhere they've kept a plaque and there are the park employees waiting and guiding us, taking us around, I felt very small. A country of 250 years old, a small history they are preserving, the way they preserve, the way they document, the way they show us. That is one way. Any child who goes in, he will get that feeling that, okay, we should preserve nature and these are all 2,000, 3,000 year old redwood trees. And people are bringing their small child and showing this how you should be. Now, when we don't document history in the first place, and second, among the documented history, when we don't have women heroes in the second place, and what does a girl child look up to? For example, if you look at Rani Velu Nachiyar, which she has beautifully documented, she is 60 years before Rani Jhansi, 60 years before. But possibly Rani Velu Nachiyar is the only, forget about woman king, madam, probably the only emperor, a king, who took on the mighty British, defeated them, and ruled later for 17 more years. There is no other documented history in India where I've taken on East India Company, I've defeated them. They'll always find a way through your back door, they come and stab you in the back. But this woman, she defeated them and ruled for 17 more years. And even when we look at Rani Jhansi Bai, when we talk about valor and greatness and all those great things, but recently a part of history that fascinated me. Not only is she a brave woman, but after her husband's death, before the annexation happened, the kind of negotiation she did with the British before she took the sword. Very beautiful, high quality negotiation skills Rani Jhansi was doing with British, arguing why you should not take my kingdom. These are all the legal precedent. These are all the legal rules. Very beautiful negotiation she did. Failed it, she took a sword. But this facet of Rani Jhansi Bai is not there. It is not that you have to take a sword at the drop of a hat. She did everything possible within her hands. Nothing worked. Finally, she was forced to take a sword. But Rani Velu Nachiyar, the only thing to commemorate her is we have a trade now. Rani Velu Nachiyar Express now. That is the only thing which, after Modi ji came, he named that train. That is the only thing that is running. If you go to the places that he has mentioned here, the places that he has beautifully documented, you go there, madam. The place where Rani Velu Nachiyar's husband and Gauri, the second wife of the king, both got killed. Yes, madam. You will see a small granite block. You will see some two street dogs lying in north and south. Fully dusty place. And somebody would have locked it. He would have gone somewhere because we had that problem. And you search for that guy everywhere, you find and open it. No document, nothing, not even a single plaque that is written. A simple Tamil they have written somewhere, it is what it is. Nothing is documented. How will somebody, let us imagine I take my daughter there. I show, no, this is the place where 250 years back, Rani Velu Nachiyar, she defeated, and nothing to show. Then from there, Kaliyar Kovil, again, when we travel much deeper, there it is not only the story of Rani Velu Nachiyar, ma'am, like Vikram very beautifully captured, it is also the story of Kuili. who comes from a scheduled caste community, the Arundhadiyar community, who possibly the world's first suicide bomber, who went in. When you're looking at Samathuvam in Tamil, we talk. We are looking at that point of time, 250 years, yeah, Rani Velnachar and Kuili. Then she had Marudu Sahodharas, the greatest of men, guarding her, standing with her. But when they were hanged, what was Marudu's last request? You can hang me, I don't have a problem. But don't ever destroy my temple, whatever I've built. So take my head, put it in front of the temple so that you don't. These are all very small things in our history, ma'am. But this is an important thing because you bring quality, you build quality into our children. Attitude, fearlessness, straightforward living, honesty, ethics. And we are searching for heroes now. The heroes that we show them are invariably failing. The sports stars are invariably failing. There is one thing, one here, one there. So which hero to show? My wife and me, we have a constant debate. My son is 7 years now. He has already got some big posters and all he puts in his school bag. So we all know that hero's nature and all. Whatever he wants as hero. Now we are struggling. Whom should we introduce as a hero to our child now? They are the heroes sitting here, but not properly documented. So to answer your question, madam, yes, the country has to change. The documentation has started. This is a great thing that Vikramji has done with the right perspective. That is why it has sold 4 editions in 1 month, ma'am. Because I think the middle class families like us are hungry for heroes. Because not only do we read, we teach our children, this is what it is. Some of the books, some of the stories here, Martanda Varma, when he has mentioned about the Kerala king, I find a lot of similarity with Shivaji, Veer Shivaji. The more we dig into it, the more we read into all of this, we simply find great emperors almost have the same quality. He went and surrendered his whole kingdom before Lord Padmanabha Swami. He said, I'm ruling in your name. What did Lord Shivaji do? He also went, met his guru, surrendered his kingdom. He said, I am ruling in your name. I am a beggar. Shivaji said, I am a beggar. And Guruji, you just give me back my land. I am ruling in your name. The orange came from there. And now people, saffron, it came from Shivaji, came from sacrifice. So at the highest level, when you have top ethics, madam, you surrender yourself to a larger purpose. We see in King Martanda Varma, we see in Shivaji, we see everywhere. This is what our children need the most. Because nobody teaches them the concept of surrender. It is take more, get more, eat more, live more, spend more. Because the generation is teaching them more. But none of us are able to teach them live less. Live a life of less comfort. Live a life of more sacrifice. So this book. So moment I think we teach them, you never know, the next lady prime minister is somewhere hiding in a government school. She's looking for that one inspiration. She's looking for the one story. They're somewhere hiding somewhere. We are not able to find them. But moment a history school teacher in her class, she goes to the board. She goes beyond her syllabus. A school teacher, beyond her syllabus. After class hours, half an hour, she will tell her school children, half an hour we'll learn about India's greatest queens. And she will teach. I hope and pray somebody is going to do that. Reading this, somebody is going to do that in a government school, and which is going to produce possibly in India's next woman prime minister or the president. So till then, it's a constant process, madam. We just have to fight it out, write it, chisel it out, so that the change starts happening.
Vikram, in this context, I want to ask you, when you were working on this book, I know the amount of research that would have gone in to this book. Did you have enough information that you wanted? What were the challenges? Was it easy to research some of the subjects? I know it's not just Google search or Wikipedia kind of research. This is research of, top quality and fact checking. And so how did you, give us a sense of...
In fact, my publishers, Penguin, I often say they conned me into this book. They said after that very bulky Savarkar volumes, do a quickie, as my editor said. Quickly you can put 15 stories, it'll be a fast read. I said, okay, let me take a try because I have a bigger biography coming up, which is of Tipu Sultan, sucker for punishment that I am. So I thought, okay, let me do this fast. But then I realized it was 15 times tougher than that Savarkar book because you had to go to so many different parts of India. It was my own, I think, Bharat Darshan Yatra. Yatras are the flavor of the season these days. So where I went to different parts of India, and actually, so in mainstream history, there is no accounts of several of these heroes, including, I mean, Annamalai sir spoke about Rani Lakshmibai, her counterpart at the same time, Begum Hazrat Mahal, who probably gave a very, very strong resistance in Lucknow to the British, in 1857. So little is known about her, even in Lucknow, unfortunately. But then, constantly we are told that right from the time, Al-Baruni came and or the British came, that the Hindus or the Indians do not have an idea of history and documentation, which is utterly false. I mean, if you go to Kashmir, Kalhana and the Rajatarangini that he wrote, which I have, accessed in detail for the chapter on Lalitaditya, has the entire story of the Kashmir, the Hindu past of Kashmir before the 13th century and the Shahamiri dynasty coming there and taking over. So this is documented history. You go down, in Tamil Nadu, the Cholas managed to maintain their documents in the most beautiful manner, in multiple copies of the same, whether it was on temple inscriptions, it was coins, it was palm leaf manuscripts, it was different sources. Similarly, you go to Northeast, from the 4th century BC onwards, there is documented history of Assam, and from the Ahoms rulers who came in 1228 CE. From then onwards, what are known as the Burunjis, these were the chronicles in the Ahomya language, which very detailed catalogues the entire history of that place, history of all the rulers. So it's not as if there is no documentation. It may not be in the way that the Westerners look at how we need to document and keep our records. India has never followed any rule book. We have our own unique, approach to life, our own unique philosophy to everything about ourselves. So we documented it in the way we want. It's up to us to access it. And the sources then become multifold, looking at all these different sources beyond textual references, certainly beyond only the English and the mainstream, works that are there. And a lot of oral and, folklore, the story of the Mardu brothers, the story of Velu Nachiyar itself is, and Veerapandian Kattabomman, all of this is a part of folklore, which also I managed to access. And very interestingly, this is the time of the Kantara and the whole movie which has created a sensation of this Bhuta Aradhane, which is done in my state of Karnataka. Now, other than just, gods and spirits and so on, they also invoke kings and queens of the past. So I was very fortunate to go to actually one such Bhuta Aradhane performance, where that day it was told to me that Rani Abbakka, whom I catalog here, she was being invoked. Now, so obviously the practitioner had a lot of things to talk about Abbakka and what she did and so on. So it becomes a modern historian's conundrum, how much of that to take. There's a lot of fantasy, there's a lot of, storytelling. In the middle of that, there is a kernel of truth also, which one needs to extract, triangulate with facts, with some amount of, oral history, written documentation, and come out with a more, sober narrative. And I think, Sudhaji, that has been the, in the prologue I write, that the Indic, perspective to what historiography itself is. There is a shloka that is attributed to Kalhana, Dharmartha Kama Mokshanam Upadesha Samanvitam Kathayuktam Puravrittam Itihasam Tachakshmate. Kathayuktam, in the form of a storytelling manner, Puravrittam, the narratives of the past are told in a story form. Upadesha Samanvitam, there has to be a didactic element, there has to be some moral fabric for society. What is the moral component of it? It needs to inspire people. And in the achievement of what? In the 4 Purusharthas of Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, that is then called Itihasam Tachakshmate. Itihasa is also in Sanskrit. It thus happened. Itihasa. So our Puranas, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, which are collectively called Itihasas, are all of this. There is a lot of fantasy, there are mythical beings, there is a lot of, even Kalhana's Rajatarangini has a lot of, fanciful stories. When Lalitaditya went to the Dakshina Patha, the whole Vindhya Parvata itself, like a hunchback woman, she, prostrated before him and gave way and made, so all these fantastic tales are there. But then in the middle of that, the very fact that maybe he came towards the south on a campaign, this is what might have happened. So in the middle of this fantastic stories, there is a kernel of truth, and that is what a modern historian needs to draw out of. I think for the longest time, we have depended on the Western model of what is known as the positivist theory of history, which only looks at evidence-based, everything needs to have evidence. But history is not a physical science. It's, the past, by its very nature, is not present. And so you cannot really, in a lab, put two chemicals and see what happens. So whatever sources are there, they are very, very fragmented. They are incomplete. They're coming down through so many filters. And very little of what is left. That is what a modern historian needs to use to reconstruct the past. And so I think this Indic perspective of what history needs to be. All of these stories were written as kavyas. So even our Sulba Sutras that we talk of, where we say the Pythagoras theorem came from that, if you go and see there, nobody is saying a square equal to b square plus c square directly. There is a Mahakavya, in that something is embedded. So our, I think the people who were knowledge seekers in our civilization, they didn't want to give the knowledge very easily to the seeker. You have to work a little hard to extract that truth out of it. Even if you go, Shakta Sadhaka, if you go to the Lalita Trishati, if you take the first syllable of all the mantras that are there, if you join that, you get the Panchadashi mantra which comes out. But you need to know that to actually get that out. It will not be told to you saying, which is what the Western model, everything is spoon-fed to you and given to you. So I think this Indian way of looking even at history, it has never been given its due. It has always been rubbished away, right from the times of invaders, from, as I said, Al-Biruni down to the British, to the Marxist historiographers who look down upon, the Indian perspective of what history needs to be. And I have tried my best to incorporate all these things, written documentation, oral narratives, folk performances, and also other sources like manuscripts, inscriptions, coins, everything to try and reconstruct a semblance of the past.
I think that gives us a sense of the magnitude of the task. Separating fact from fiction, like you said, deciding what to keep, what not to keep. And this thing about moral, that message being there. I think even Mr. Annamalai mentioned that, we need to change the way we look at the king's looking at his kingdom as an offering to the deity he worshipped. It's not something that he took as belonging to himself. So I think that is where we are going wrong. There is just no, people are not acting with a certain conscience. There is no moral compass. Anything is all right. As long as I get what I want, it doesn't matter how I get there. I think we need to correct all of this, and that will make us a better society. So that's why I feel that a book like this should be taken to schools, to across demographics, to be taught to groups of people. Of course, storytellers and filmmakers will draw from the book.
One thing I would like to add, Sudhaji, to what you said. Another aspect which I forgot about, in the Indic consciousness or imagination of what a Digvijaya campaign is, Lalitaditya goes on a Digvijaya, Rajaraja Chola goes on a Digvijaya campaign. But so also Adi Shankaracharya also goes on a Digvijaya campaign. He is not a ruler, he is not a politician. But the idea of Digvijaya itself to mean not just material conquest, but also intellectual, not defeating someone, but making another person accept your point of view through debate, discussion, dissent, differences of opinion. You hammer that out through vada and samvada
Dialogue.
and vivadas that come there. So even Lalitaditya, when he goes on this massive campaign across India, conquers, as I said, almost whole of half of the Indian subcontinent is the Kashmir Empire. He doesn't stop just there or building magnificent cities or building great palaces and temples, which he does. But he also makes Kashmir a center of great learning, a center of intellect. And wherever he goes and captures any ruler, from that particular place, the idol is brought back and established in a much bigger temple than what the opponent had. And also the scholars from that court, they would be brought back and made in the Navaratnas of your court. And that is one reason why, Kashmir, so people like Vakpati, Atri Gupta, who was Abhinav Gupta's grandfather, Bhavabhuti, the Sanskrit poet, then Charvaka, Shushruta, all these people were in the Kashmir, ecosystem. And so you had Kashmir becoming a center of the Tantra, of Kashmir Shaivism. Atri Gupta was the grandfather of Abhinava Gupta, who is credited with Kashmir Shaivism, Vajrayana Buddhism, which flourished there, also astrology, astronomy, all these different. So the index of your kingdom was not just how many palaces you built or the material conquest, but on the scholarly level, on the intellectual capital, how good was your kingdom vis-a-vis another one. And that we see all through, the Vijayanagar Empire, you have so many stories of contests between, a scholar comes to your court and says, we would, the entire honor of that kingdom is at stake, if the resident scholar is defeated. So I think that is very important, and that is what we have lost touch with. Only in the pursuit of materialism, this intellectual component and the finer aesthetics of life, I think that is not there, then all the wealth, all the material benefits, I think we'll be much poorer.
That is really the need of the hour, Vikram. So, any plans on taking this across to schools? Yeah, I know that universities will recommend this book as a reading material. History departments, of course, they will.
I'm very unsure of that. Universities and the two history departments,
not in India, maybe the West.
Outside, all the more difficult.
So, how do you propose? Any suggestions from you would be valuable, Mr. Annamalai.
Madam, before the era of technology, it was being controlled who will read what, who will see what, who will hear what. That was the controlled mechanism. I think this book and other kinds of books, I believe children get knowledge maybe 20% from what they get in school. 80% is outside. That is my way of looking at school education now, madam. So it's a matter of time before kids will start picking it up, many things. Recently for the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the Doordarshan came up with 75 excellent stories throughout the year, which will be a proper high quality HD video, a 45-minute video of one historical person of India. Some of Tamil Nadu's greatest people are also chronicled there. People who lived 200 years back, 250 years back. Proper historical 4D narration. But this kind of things, something should come about this book also. This book is a classic case of a Netflix one. You have 15 stories, you have like a Game of Thrones model. You can make it, and because the content consumption is also to be debated and discussed, ma'am. This is a book. Now the younger generation reading, if you look at this thing, if you look at the evening function, how many kids are here? Some of the greatest Carnatic musicians are here sitting in the front row. There I have some politicians sitting. I have some young UPSC preparation people sitting. Then we have some eminent gentlemen, some doctors, sports people from Chennai. Now, if you look at the kids per se, people would like to see a video. People would like to see a narration. But for that to happen, a book is a must.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Vikram is not expecting these books to sell about 10 million copies. It should be 10 million copies. Every child in India should read it. But he hopes and pray, maybe somebody, when they read the book, would get an idea to develop a movie byline or a Netflix series byline. From there, it will reach a lot of people, ma'am. And more than that, it is very important that we take our children outside. I remember when I was in Chikmagalur in Karnataka as the SP of the district. One day I went to a police station for inspection. There is a taluk called Tarikere, and there is a police station, and there is a small town called Amriteshwara, Amritahalli. Sorry, long time, 7-8 years now. When I went to that Amritahalli police station, I asked the inspector, why did you get the name called Amritahalli? He said, I don't know, sir. Then I asked a couple of officers who were inside, can somebody tell me why the name has come? Then one guy had a smart idea. He said, I'll go to the collector's office, get the district gazetteer, we will read it. Then within no time, somebody went to collector's office, got the gazetteer, we opened it. Then we found the Amritahalli name came because there is a temple called Amriteshwara there. Then the next question is, why did Amriteshwara temple got built? Then we had time. I said, chalo, we'll go see, come. So all of us went. It's a very beautiful, stunning temple, 3-4 kilometers away from the city, built for Lord Shiva. Magnificent temple. Then all of us were wondering, how did the temple come? We called up the guide, and 2 guides were able to mumble something. He said, there is a senior guide, you should call him. Then we called a senior guide. He said, please explain, how did the temple came? He said, it came because there was a king, Chalukyan king, called Amritaya Nayaka. When they took on the Sultanate in a fight, he was backstabbed and he died. So the king who came there, he was his general. The king who came, he said, look, this guy in a war which is supposed to be fought 1-to-1, people have stabbed in the back, which is against the rule of war. So this guy has to be made immortal. So the king then and there decided to build a temple for his general. Amritaya Nayaka is his name. It became an Amriteshwara for Lord Shiva. The temple is still there. So now when we take our child, not only should we tell our child, please worship Lord Shiva, get a prasadam and come out. No. The intention of building the temple is not to give prasadam or to coconut or something. The intention is for the father and mother to tell that child, you are worshipping linga, which is built in memory of a person who was killed in a war unfairly. So never do unfair things in life. So all those temples are built to give a lesson to the society. So that is why all temples and many things in our life are built. But we are in a so hurry and we go there, and except books like this come, everything you perfectly document. Lalitaditya, the beautiful sun temple he built. First time I heard about this in the Kashmir Files movie. Till then, none of us in India heard a name called Lalitaditya, 7th century, and the temple got razed and disturbed, and none of us knew. Many of us don't know. Maybe some of the audience could have known. I didn't know that you built the sun temple. Only the name I could hear in that history. So the history is right in front of us. Right in front of us. Everywhere we walk, it is there. In Chennai, when we walk, this is the place which gave inspiration to Mahatma Gandhi in 1917 for non-cooperation movement. He came, he was sleeping at morning 4:35, when the dusk was coming, dawn dusk. That is the time he got that vague thing, non-cooperation movement started. Madurai, when he went, he left all his clothes. But the only thing is, our eyes and ears are not tuned and open to the history around us. This country, everything is history, madam. Everything is history. You walk, there is a history light in front of you. And somehow we want this kind of books to come and develop an interest. And that is where I feel very bad, madam. How many of us have the time now to tell the younger generation, look, learn from it? Because this whole temple or structure or something magnificent is standing here for 1,000 years because not for you to appreciate the beauty, clap and go. It is there to convey a story. That story could be a story of courage, story of sacrifice, some story. So that is where this kind of books play a part. And I hope and pray this will rekindle that interest in history, madam. Rekindle that interest. Great things. History is not to be learned to mug up and vomit in the exam so that you get good marks. History is there because you see your true self in the mirror, you get inspired, you become a great personality, you come out and do it. That is why the writing, the narration of the book itself is very different. Not like a temple, you've thrown all around it. Very beautifully, Rajendra Chola. How did he take, madam? Very beautifully. As if you are traveling in a ship, as if you are traveling in the sea, as if you are seeing what is happening there in Cambodia, as if you are seeing everything out. So it should inspire the young kids, but not necessarily per se by reading. But this book will take many forms. For that, I think this is just a base, I believe, madam.
But having said that, Mr. Annamalai, when a book like this is written, there's always people who don't like the existing narrative to be disturbed. Any expansion of the narrative, any tweaking of anything that might alter your perceptions or You know, sometimes it reopens old wounds. You want to settle the scores of a past. Somebody invaded my country, so I have to fix that guy now. Will it, lead to that kind of a response?
The great thing now, ma'am, the information is very democratized now. So anything you read, that too very heavily researched book, the references are too many, 20, 30, 40 references Aramse is given. So now when you read it, when there is a debatable point, somebody debates with them. You mentioned about the Grand Temple, the Tanjavur Temple, this, that, it is not like this, it is that. Now, all we need to do is go through the references, go through the historical different inputs that is available in the open source internet and whatever it is. But these are all not necessarily available per se. With a lot of deep historical research, he has got it. But to argue on a point or to check a fact, now for him technology helps. Because now we say, this era is the era of Vikram Sambat, era of Sai Deepak, era of 3-4 eminent historians. That too, they are very young. And he is very deadly also. An engineer, then an MBA, trained in music. Music is also science, ma'am, end of the day. Highest science. So he has got all those quality. Now it is like debating with a mathematician of the highest order. Now, I'm sure he is seeing history in numbers. He is just arguing in numbers. So they are very deadly people, madam. Not like some age-old person sitting somewhere, read some book, writing some story. The young generation are becoming very deadly. So that is why people tried taking them on in the initial phase. Now they're keeping quiet. They know what material they are made up of. So I think the era has changed. The nature of information flow has changed. The book will pass through a state of least resistance. That was what I see, madam. Thank you.
Yes. And sometimes, Mr. Annamalai, people argue without having done any research, without understanding, without getting the facts correct. They just argue for the sake of arguing. Like recently when Ponniyin Selvan was released, based on Kalki Krishnamurthy's work, Mani Ratnam directed film, there was a totally unnecessary debate about whether Rajaraja Soran was a Hindu. So somebody has built Shiva temples. He also supported Vishnu and other temples. And you debate whether he's a Hindu or not, because the word Hindu wasn't coined at that point. As Dr. Karan Singh pointed out very aptly, he said it's like saying you're a Catholic without being a Christian. So these kind of, I think, why do politicians have to play caste politics?
This is something I was coming to. Politicians, we stand guilty as charged. The reason is, madam, Plato expected politics to be the highest of science. Highly evolved science should be the political science. That is what the Greek philosophers wanted. But Churchill said politics has become the last page of scoundrels now. It has changed we have changed from the Greek era to now. I see, you see the scholars, you look at the first Constituent Assembly after 52 when they all went and sat. You had this high quality people sitting inside, great debates, great quality Constitutional Assembly debates, 46 to 49. Now we have political leaders in Tamil Nadu, big MPs now, 3, 4, 5-time MP. In a question, they're asking about GST. He's like, Acha, GST is like that. Without even knowing he was speaking about GST for the last 4 years. We have politicians of that nature. I'm not taking anybody's name, not to make it very political in nature. People have studied very little knowledge. They don't have a sense of history. They're extremely small-minded, very polarized views they take. And they come and debate in the public. They get exposed thoroughly. So these are all very amateurish comment made by one person who picked up. Because unfortunately, the Tamil media is no more the age-old scrutiny media. They are that highest standard. They hold people to account. Now the Tamil media, if you look at the nighttime debate, is Rajaraja Cholan a Hindu? They have taken that as a debate point. And 4 guys sitting in one side and saying, no, what is a Hindu? Who coined the word called Hindu? Another debate. And another person says, no, he said in this context. I feel very sad seeing the quality of intellectual discussion that is happening in Tamil society right now, ma'am. I feel very sad. The quality of debate we do. This land has given the highest quality of people. Some of the greatest musicians are here. Greatest writers are here. Kalki would have felt very sad. from up, seeing what is happening. What has it come to in Tamil Nadu? What are you doing? So after the movie has come, then you must have seen the other side of debate. Why did Maniratna make an Hindutva movie? Suddenly, why did he become a Sanghi? These are all the same debate that got flipped to 180 degree because people commented whether Rajaraja Cholan was a Hindu only after seeing the trailer. I remember one political commentator felt after seeing the movie got released later, he said, the movie has got too much Hindu-ness in it. Now you have to ask him, please explain Hindu-ness to me. Very unfortunate, the quality of debate is getting very childish, very amateurish. I hope and pray, good people they get into politics. That is very important, ma'am. Politics, end of the day, is scholarly. That's why Rajya Sabha was created, because you want scholarly people to sit inside who might not necessarily get elected. We cannot ask Vikram Sambatji to go to Bangalore, don't write anything. That is why intentionally, the President of India has given 12 seats in Rajya Sabha, and President of India should nominate people like them, people of letters, people of eminent historians, people of sports nature, and 12 people should come into Rajya Sabha, sit there. Now I felt very happy in the last Rajya Sabha nomination, you see, ma'am. Even before that, that post was also sold for a suitcase. Now you had highest quality, like people like Ilayaraja entering, people like P.T. Usha entering, Rajamouli ji's father, who wrote most of the screenplays for some of the best movies, he is entering. People of literature, sports and music. So this makes the discussion very healthy. And the political parties are also expected to nominate their Rajya Sabha candidates of that quality. And Lok Sabha, it is expected over a point of time among the 543, at least 150, 200 would have some kind of a brain and rationality when they debate. Not necessarily people play a caste card, not necessarily people play a regional card, not necessarily people play that Aryan Dravidian card, Hindu, Tamil card, Sanskrit this card, that card, anti-Brahmin card. Of course, in a politics, there is a space and some people sneak through it, like 50, 60 people come. When all 543 become like that, imagine the danger for the democracy. When all 39 from Tamil Nadu become like that, imagine the danger for a democracy. So though there is a check and balance, I hope and pray it gets corrected over a point of time where the intellectual people come in and possibly the democracy also becomes conducive for them to get elected. That is very important. When Gujarat kind of BJP wave happens, I feel very happy in a wave election. It is always easy to push some 10, 20 intellectual candidates inside the wave election. There is always the MLA, because BJP won about 90% of seats it contested today in Gujarat. So it is great for democracy in a way, because not everybody need to be a rabble-rouser. I will do this, I will give you free thing, I will give you this. So this kind of sweep election, you push some 10, 25 candidates who will make the democracy mature. That makes political parties great. So when you want the intellectual guys to come inside, do normal politics, go from street to street, meet people, you can understand, Modi ji. If you look at our some of the greatest cabinet ministers, Railway Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, Commerce and Industry Piyush Goyal ji, External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar, Petroleum Hardeep Singh Puri. You can't expect all 5 ministers to be in their constituency daily, meet people from morning 9 to 4 o'clock, and then do things like a normal politician. Then their question of getting elected becomes a problem. That is why Modi ji felt these issues bring a professional. Bring Nirmala Sitharaman to finance, he's a professional. Bring Piyush Goyal ji because he's a professional. Because these are all countries, these are all issues. A professional has to be free of democratic pressure. Which marriage should I attend? Which thing should I go? My district president is there. Which mala should I put to him? Which mala he should put to me? Which house we should go? Because for a normal politician, this takes 80% of our time. Because you miss a marriage, 100 votes gone. You miss a death ceremony, 50 votes gone. Your invitation has come, somehow you fail to turn up, 1,000 votes gone. You don't smile in the public, whichever mood you are there, 5,000 votes gone. So that is why Modi ji expects Nirmala Sitharaman ji, Piyush Goyal ji, Jai Shankar ji, Hardeep Singh Puri ji to be the best of brains, because they focus on administration at work.
So I think, can we have some rapid fire questions?
Oh my God, okay. Sure.
So Vikram,
Sounds scary.
do you handwrite your draft? Do you type? Do you dictate? How do you do it?
No, I type now because I think it's. I was telling Aruna Mami also. I think we've lost touch with our fingers and hands
Yeah.
to sign. Also,
Yes.
I think typing it just saves so much time in terms of editing and all of that. So yeah,
And how long did the book take from start to finish?
this took about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 years. The Savarkar volumes took about 5 years of a lot of research. This was in that way. Penguin was right. It was a comparatively a quickie.
Yeah. Mr. Annamalai, you talked about having to attend weddings and, and smiling at people and deciding on the garlands and stuff like that. I'm sure with all that, how do you manage to read? How do you speed read? What is the secret? I'm sure you have lots to
Very
read.
tough, madam. Because as we speak now, I come from Karur. And Karur, I have all my relatives in Karur and Kongu area. So a wedding season, some days the invitation goes up to 30.
Okay.
But my current role makes me to be in Chennai and I have to be here. If I don't go there, people think I've lost touch with that soil and somewhere I'm roaming. So for me, it is a family work. It gets divided. My wife, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you go. My sister, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you go. My mother, this, you go. My father, this, you go.
Delegation.
All delegation, complete delegation, madam. And everywhere I go, they go there, they make a phone and they say, and you talk in phone, I say, I cannot come, I'm so sorry, next time when I come home. The current political climate and role in India, madam, is very, very complicated, extremely complicated. We work 24/7, 365 days. The age-old happiness of taking a book and reading it cover to cover at one session, because you feel it. College time and all, when you read a book, you feel it. Now, this book was with me in Varanasi, it was with me in Delhi, it was traveling with me last 6 days here and there. Yesterday was with me in Coimbatore, and I like open it, see it. Next chapter, that joy is missing, madam, because I want this kind of beautiful book to read it in one go. You take it at one go, because that is the justice you do to a great author like him. But here it is like so much distraction, diversion. When Shashi Tharoor says, I've read so many books after becoming a politician, I really don't know. Maybe Tharoor can read it. Before getting into politics, we have read so much, but now it is becoming impossible day by day. And at the same time, when to honor, we have to read and come, because you have to do justice to this book. So it's very tough, madam, not very easy. Maybe from the outside it looks, oh, they are very well organized and here and everything is there. Not very easy, madam. So like they say, it takes a village to bring a child. For me, it takes a family and a big parivar to make me to do what I'm doing. So alone it is impossible, madam.
What about a second book after stepping in Kaki?
Yes, madam. We haven't made an announcement, but second book I'm combining with Aravind Neelakandanji. So both of us have decided to write a book. It is called, we had to make an announcement, madam. We are just in the process of building it together. We are calling it Tamil Nadu 2.0. And we are taking a complete unbiased relook at what Tamil Nadu has gone in the last 80 years, the Dravidian philosophy. And did development actually happen? Did development happen because of philosophy or because of people or because of eminent entrepreneurs? Who did the development? And where is Tamil Nadu now in the Indian sphere? And where Tamil Nadu has to go from now? So it's a book both of us have combinedly decided we have to write it. It's a need of the hour. And probably next year mid we should come out. Yes, madam.
And what about how often do you go to your farm?
Very important question. Recently, I read my resignation letter, madam. When the IPS, when I got out, I read that very beautiful letter. I wrote very emotional letter. In the letter I've written, I wanted to spend time with my son and my farm, and I wanted to see whether my sheep still listens to me, because I'm no more a cop, I've written. Now, after resigning, I wanted to do this peacefully, beautifully. I wanted to dedicate time, but forces took me into politics. I was running a foundation, and somehow I'm sitting in front of you in a new role. So the current time I get is hardly 2 to 3 days every month to enter into my farm, see what is happening and come out. Every time I go, I tell my mother, last time I was asking, we got a Jallikattu bull, which is supposed to go from this January. So I told my mother, Amma, enna ivlo perusairuchu Jallikattu kaalana ivlo perusairuchunu. Saapadu adhigama vekkringalan, because we don't want it to put a lot of fat, because it has to go and do it. My mother told me, "Adana, நீ வார வாரம் வந்து கேட்க வேண்டிய கேள்விடா, நீ மாசத்துக்கு ஒருக்கா வந்து, you come every month once, you come and boss over me saying you gave this feed too much, you gave that feed too much. Every week you come, you got a bull, I never asked you to buy a bull, you got all this. Now you want me to take care, and on top of it you want and come and complain that I've overfed it." Now, but somehow the karma is keeping me here, ma'am. Though my mind and heart everywhere is in the farm, you are free, you are at the Panjabhuta, and nothing stops you. But somehow the karma is keeping me here. I'm technically not a Chennai boy, you all know, because Chennai I never came. I came during the school time once, college time once. The first time when I joined the party, I came to Chennai after 10 years. I was like, what happened to Chennai? Everything has changed. Now karma has made sure that I am staying in Chennai. So I am properly a village boy. I feel out of place in a crowd. I feel out of place with the cars. I feel out of place in a big crowd. By nature, I am kind of a shy boy. For me, 2 people is a big crowd. But politics has made sure I do exactly things opposite to how I was brought up. Very tough one, madam, but I still hope and pray once the role is done, once BJP comes to power, then probably you seek what Shivaji sought, you seek what the great people did. You take refuge in your mind, you take refuge in the soil, you go there, live a peace, quiet life, and you spend time with your child. I want to be the biggest inspiration for him. I want to be the biggest teacher for him, for my daughter, because they look up to me. This things is like a karma. I do it with devotion, I do it with love. But you bring good people into power centers. That is my biggest aim. You identify good people, build the party, make sure right people sit in right position. But after that, I don't have any interest, madam. For me, the farm and the sheep and the cow, it interests me more. I hope and pray maybe 5-10 years from now, I'll be there doing what I love.
So last 2 questions for you, Vikram. How do you handle criticism? And when you're not writing, what do you do?
Handle criticism. I mean, that comes dime a dozen, as Annamalai sir mentioned. I think the floodgates got opened after the Savarkar book. I knew there would be a backlash, but I didn't expect it would be this vitriolic. But it's, I think, expected. I would be in a fool's paradise if I thought that, establishmentarians who have, ruled the roost for so long, anyone coming from the outside and attacking a well-guarded fortress, they would have to face the kind of onslaughts, the kind of, personal attacks, a lot of other things. I remember in 2008, my first book on Mysore had come out. And in that, Tipu Sultan and Hyder Ali were just one chapter. And so somebody had invited me for a talk in Bangalore about that. And I was just quoting, and I was still a young boy. It was my first book. I was not aware of how to navigate these difficult waters with so many crocodiles and sharks. So I was quoting some of his own letters where he talks of conversions and attacks and all of those things. And suddenly the hall like this, it just erupted. And there were so many people who started throwing paper rockets, and this one had to be actually aborted, the talk, and the organizers took me away. And then my father was sitting in the first row, and somebody went to him and gave a pamphlet or some Tipu fan club or something, and then said, "You have only one child, so better look after him if you want him around for long." And that really rattled him so much, and he came back and he told my mother, and my mother that day took an oath, saying, "You are not going to talk about Tipu Sultan ever in public, in this thing." And now that she's not there, I broke that oath, and I'm now writing a full-fledged biography of his. I really don't know. Wherever she is, I'm sure she'll protect me from that. So I think, as Annamalai sir said, I think when you are on I look at it as a dharma yuddha, where there will be attacks. There will be all kinds of people saying all kinds of things. If you cannot face the heat in the kitchen, then leave the kitchen. So, but then it is a very important field to be left away for, agenda-driven establishmentarians for so long. More and more people should come in. You must have, like he said, I'm also an extremely shy, extremely introverted person who shudders at the very thought of public speaking and having so many people in front of you, but then karma pushes you into strange waters all the time. Maybe, it's some calling, some blessing of somebody to actually do something, a small little contribution to this country. And of course, I would say on a lighter note that those writing history with a different perspective should also have a good battery of lawyers. Considering these days I'm fighting more in the courts and having defamation suits and this and that, so that costs a lot of money. So the lawyers also are very important to have.
I know, telling it like it is. Yeah. So we've almost reached the end of the program, and we'll field a few questions from the audience. So please be very brief. State your name. Let the question be a question and not a long-winded speech, and tell us who you'd like the response from. The mics are coming round.
நான் மைக்கெல்லாமே கேட்கணுமா?
The gentleman there.
தமிழ்ல கேட்கலாமா?
அவருக்கு தமிழ் புரியும் சார்.
தெரியுமா? நிறைய பேசுறோம். இந்த கோவிலுக்குள்ள எல்லாரும் அனுப்பிச்சதா யாரெல்லாம் கிரெடிட் எடுத்துக்கிறாங்க, யாருக்கு கிரெடிட் பண்ணுமோ அவார்டுக்கு போல, அதை பத்தி ஏதாவது எழுதுவீங்களா? யார் நிஜமாவே கோவிலுக்குள்ள எல்லாரையும் அனுப்பிச்சதை பத்தி எழுதுவீங்களா?
சார், நம்முடைய அந்த தமிழ்நாடு 2.0 புத்தகத்தில் அது இருக்குது சார். அது எப்போ யார் ஆரம்பித்தா, எந்த கோயிலில் அது ஃபஸ்ட்டு போனாங்க, வி ஆர் ட்ரைங் டு இந்த என்னென்ன தியரி எல்லாம் பில்ட் பண்ணியிருக்காங்களோ, சோஷியல் ஜஸ்டிஸ் தியரி, இந்த தியரி, அந்த தியரி, என்னென்ன தியரி எல்லாம் பில்ட் பண்ணியிருக்காங்களோ, எவ்ரி திங் வி ஆர் ஹேவிங் அ ரீலுக் வித் ஹிஸ்ட்ரி, வித் டாக்குமெண்ட்ஸ். மிகப்பெரிய ஃபஸ்ட்டு ஐ திங்க் டெம்பிள் என்ட்ரி மூமெண்ட். நமஸ்காரங்க ஐயா, ரொம்ப நன்றி, தேங்க்யூ.
Hi, Vikram. Big fan of yours and of Annamalai. So, I also did a little research. There's some controversy as to whether this story of Kuili and Tuyal is supposed to be a washerwoman who helped Velu Nachiyar as she was escaping from Kaliyarkoi after her husband was killed. I'd like to know from your research how true or false is the Tuyal story, because there is a Vittu Tuyal Amman thing. I'd like to hear that.
Yes. No, that's an excellent point. I think it is completely true that she helped while she was escaping to Mysore and to the border area to actually later seek refuge with Hyder Ali. That is when when the Arcot Nawab and the East India Company are in hot pursuit. It is she who helps Velu Nachiyar to escape safely, and that is one reason she names her women's corps also after her. And after the re-establishment of the kingdom in Shivaganga, even the Mangal Sutra is kept in her honor there by Velu Nachiyar. And Kuili is also is a great story because Shivaganga is under occupation of the British and Arcot Nawab. And these people, all these women, on a Vijayadashmi day, they come to that place and dressed as devotees, and then it's completely the woman corpse who comes to the palace and the temple, and ostensibly with this thing to worship on Vijayadashmi. But in the middle of that, this Kuili goes to the ammunition store. She douses herself with kerosene and then lights herself and then goes into the ammunition center, and the whole thing blows up, and most of the weaponry of the British is destroyed. And that is how then all the women pull out their swords with Vetrivel, slogans, and Veeravel, and then go and then attack and reoccupy. That is very much a documented history, which the British records scantily mention, but it is a part of, it's a true history.
Great. Recently he has finished writing a book.
Oh, I see.
Any other questions? Can you step up? Hello.
No, I'm sure, sir. I mean, what about, there are many people who, one can write. As I said, these 15 are not the be-all and end-all. This is just the start. like, even on social media, so many people other than the other galis that one gets, they also a lot of constructive suggestions about, you missed, like in this book, there is no representation to Odisha, to Bengal, to maybe Nagaland and so many other places. Somebody told me about this fascinating ruler whom I had never heard of. They later did a little digging about him, called Langula Narasingha Deva, from Odisha, apparently. And he is the one who built the Konark temple also, 13th century and thereabouts. And while all the other people mentioned in the book are more reactive, like when there were invasions, they reacted, they pushed back. Here was a man who was proactive. Even before the Turks and all the Turkic armies and the Khiljis, the Delhi Sultanate could attack his kingdom, he proactively ensured a pushback from the entire Odisha and Bengal region. And when someone pointed this out on social media, I literally hit myself saying, what a gem of a story that would have been, and I missed it. So I'm sure there are many such people, and now increasingly the pressures from my readers, from the publisher, etc., is to bring out a sequel where maybe many of these people who are left behind can be included.
Namaskar.
President Annamalai, to break the silence, who is your favorite historical hero? This is going to think and answer because this is going to go viral.
Rajkumarji, thank you for the question. For me, more than a hero, I derive a lot of inspiration from many small things they did, many great things they did. If you look at historical figures per se, and we live in an age and time where we pick up things here and there. First time when I went to, recently when Himanta Dada, he celebrated the 400th birth celebration of Lachit, where Amit Shah ji went and inaugurated. It was a full front page paper. Across India they have done it. I just saw, I never heard his name. In Delhi, they are celebrating. Amit Shah ji is coming and doing the honors. Let me Google and see. Because our sense of history is also limited by the place we live and the books we read and the kind of people we meet. But the more we kind of have the courage to push our boundaries, go see new people and new places, they also inspire us. So I would say, let me not limit myself by the kind of heroes I've seen with my limited life till now. But there are a lot of heroes waiting to be discovered more, somewhere hiding here and there. So for me, I take inspiration here, there, and everybody. So that is why I said the Amritahalli, Amriteshwara, Amritaya Nayaka story is great story for me. Great story. Because the temple was just built to honor a general, because the rules of the war were very clear. Don't fight after sunset, don't stab in the back. But they did it because somebody lost a son and somebody lost a husband and some child lost their father. The temple was built purely in memory of that person to keep his memory alive. For me, it's a great story. For me, more than the temple, I really loved the king who built the temple. Because how many kings would do that for a general? So that is the story I want to teach my child do it. Rajaraja Cholan, Rajendra Cholan, of course. We read it now, we know what they are, and somebody waited for their throne for very long. Somebody had the patience to come, especially Rajaraja Cholan. Then Rajendra Cholan was more on a plate. But we see about dynasties now. Rajendra Cholan, nobody would say that is a dynastic succession. Now, dynastic succession is a very bad word in politics now. Oh, dynastic succession, you are bad. But this Rajendra Cholan, he went one up than his father. He went one up. So this is a classic case of a son learning from his father giving him the exposure in battlefield and grooming him as a proper general, a warrior king, then a great emperor who had the audacity to push oceans and go there. So I take inspiration. Okay, we should bring our son like that. Put him in hard places, make him to get exposed to unruly things, and don't give him a kind of comfort that many kings have given to their son. Mughals got destroyed because each successive generation were given more comforts than the previous generation. And these are all stories I pick from there. Though I see a great man, but as a father I see, what do I pick from this great thing so that my son shouldn't get spoiled? And this is how I see history. As a father, sometimes I see, sometimes as a politician, I see a lot of statecraft. How did they handle this? What techniques they used? Because for you, the enemies are within, enemies are from outside. How do you tactfully manage? So this I see as a politician. And as a father, you see history in a different way. As a politician, you see. As a common man, you see. So the inspirations are too many, sir. Thank you so much. Including your book was an inspiration last time when we released it.
Namaskaram, sir. My question is to Annamalai Anna. Anna, Namaskaram, na. Now, after 20-25 years, can we see you as the next PM of India? Someone from Tamil Nadu after a long time.
Sister, the way I live my life is very simple, sister. I live my life on a day-to-day basis. Frankly speaking, on a day-to-day basis. Because the kind of people you take on, the kind of forces you take on, the kind of things you do, because the ecosystem itself is like, there are thousands of people waiting in Tamil Nadu right now because I speak something bad, I speak something wrong, I quote something wrong in history, I mention a date wrong. There are thousands of people waiting in Facebook, in social media, somebody in TV, oh no, he meant it wrong. So it is always for me, it is like I live my life. I can choose to live my life like standing on a knife's edge and walking, but I chose to live my life like a recluse. Meaning there is nothing more to lose. There is nothing more to gain also. Look at the larger dharmic picture. Go there, completely surrender yourself and do things the way your heart is telling you to do. And wherever this takes you, I never wanted to be a politician. Never. I hated getting into politics because I've seen politics very close. 10 years as a cop. In my book I've written what kind of politicians have dealt, the underhand things they do. And for me, politics is strict no. Strict no. When I resigned also, my wife purposefully asked me, are you sure you will not get into politics? I said, no. I want to run a foundation. I want to get into grassroots. And then when things forced me to get into politics also, then she asked me, okay, you will use your intellectual stuff in politics. You will come on TV. You will speak. You will do that only. You will not go to ground, no? I said, no, I will not do that. Then again, things brought me here. It is like daily firefighting, hitting, going there, somebody abusing me, all those things. Whenever I go, my mother is a very simple woman, sister. My mother is sixth class pass, proper village. My mother has never come to Chennai. Though I am asking her to come to Chennai to see me, she has never come to Chennai. And all her life she has lived among the goats, the sheep and the cows. Maximum she has ventured is, right now she ventures more, but maybe till the age of 45, 50, she has ventured about 50 kilometers. Now my mother's universe is getting affected because I am in politics. She gets to see this YouTube, and then when I go there, she's like, why did this fellow speak bad about you? I'm like, which fellow? No, that fellow with big mustache in that thing, I've seen it. And why did this fellow write something about you? She's not into this Facebook and Twitter and all. She's into this WhatsApp, whatever, this 2 minute, 1 minute forward she gets. She gets very disturbed. I go there, I sit with her, I tell her, no, this is politics. I told you not to see it, not to read good things about me, not to read bad things about me. You should not read it for the time being. Then I call my sister and tell her, why is she watching all this? Who's her friend who is forwarding? Now the problem is, in my village, all the grandmas have become my friends now. It is they do the biggest forward in social media. I'm like, election time I've seen, again I go, I said, Party, why are you doing? அது தம்பி ஒரு 2 நிமிஷம் வாட்ஸ்அப்பில் வந்துச்சுப்பா, இதுக்காகவே பேரங்கிட்ட சொல்லி வாட்ஸ்அப்பை டவுன்லோட் பண்ணி 10 பேர்த்துக்கு அனுப்புறதுன்னு. Now, their whole universe is affected. It's a simple, quiet life, political attacks on me. My mother is worried, what is he going to say? So I can't live a life with big ambition, sister. It has to be a total surrender to a larger cause, total surrender to the Panchabhuta. That is the only way, else I go mad. The kind of things I'm forced to see, I go mad. And I just train my mind, see that, don't allow any things. Sometimes you happen to stand in a crowd of 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 people clap cheering. For me, it's a question of front 10 people. My mind only sees the front 10. Next day, I happen to be in a crowd of only 100 people. Again, I see the first 10. And when people abuse me also, when people praise me also, I chose to see what I want to see. So this life is a very curtailed life. Only a life based on dharma. If I skip dharma, then it's a problem for me. So ambitions, whatever has to happen. If dharma wants you to be at some place, for me, I said in the heart, give now, I probably leave everything, go back and be in my farm happily. So for me, I always held that moral dilemma. Am I doing something right? Should I go through all this process? But till I read Shivaji, I happened to read Shivaji very late. At the age of 35, I'm 38 now, 35, 36. I happened to read Shivaji very, very deeply. There I found Shivaji also had such a great emperor had the same problem. He wanted to leave everything, through everything, surrender everything, wanted to give his land and kingdom to somebody, go there, live a very normal, peaceful life. That is where he goes and meets his guru. And the guru tells, no, you are not made for this. This is your larger karma. You got to go. You got to take on Mughals. You got to fight multiple battles. You take on Mughals coming from north. Then there are the Adil Shahs who are right next to you. There are the Shah dynasty. There you fight multiple battles. Because you don't imagine, ma'am, from a no land, he never had a land of his own. Though his father was gifted something else, that's a different story. From no land, this guy truly created an empire. And probably the first mega Hindu empire. But everything he did because his guru told him, total surrender. And his mom, again when he went and met his mom, he said, I'm not doing it. And mom, only thing she asked is, look at 10,000 people behind you. Look at people who are standing behind you. Everybody is standing because they believe in you. They want you to lead them. Suddenly at 21, 27, you come, you get these fancy ideas. You come and say, I want to sacrifice everything and live this life of a mendicant. Then what are you going to tell them? It's a very beautiful story. But in the hurriedness of history reading, we don't read this. And once Shivaji dedicated himself that I'm going to totally surrender, then magic happened. Because the fear of failure is gone. He didn't have anything to prove to anybody. For him, it's a daily life living on dharma. Wherever life took him, it took him. So for me, that is all very big questions. I am not cut out for it, not fit for it. Just do this process right. Get good people into politics. Inspire kids. Make people of virtuous quality to come to power. Whoever is sitting in power, make sure we build that thing. Virtuous quality. People who become an MLA in our party also should have that virtuous quality. Even they are becoming a councillor should have that virtuous quality. Somebody becoming CM from our party should have that virtuous. Same when we trace back to Narendra Modi's life, he also had the same problem. That is why I equated Marthandavarman to Shivaji. Narendra Modi ji. 1950 born, 19 he came out of his house, he went to RSS Shaka, told his father, again roamed around India, came back to his mother, stayed for one night, ate food, told his mother, I'm leaving. That's it, I'm done. I'm going to join RSS. Then again RSS, he was not sure whether he's doing the right thing. I'm dedicating myself to an organization, to a larger cause. Went to Ramakrishna Mission, not once, twice. Both the time he told the Ramakrishna Mission, I'm leaving everything, I'm coming and joining this mission as a monk. Accept. Both the times, the same monk, a senior monk told him, no, your karma is different. You got to go back, join the organization, face the internal politics, take on everybody. Life has somehow created something for you. Age of 35, which is 1985, BJP wanted somebody from the RSS. He was deputed from RSS to BJP. 95 he went in, started building the party. 97, the whole Gujarat BJP did not want Narendra Modi in Gujarat. That's a record, that's a fact. They didn't want Narendra Modi ji to be in Gujarat. 97, he came out of Gujarat. Then 2001, the same land wanted him to come back as Chief Minister of Gujarat. Now rest is history. We are looking at 156, 160, 80%. That is all built by one man who chose to sacrifice, surrender to a larger cause. We are enjoying the fruits of benefit now. The party is enjoying his sacrifice, his fruits of benefit. So you see these great people, madam, somehow they actually don't want to do what they are doing. Not I am calling Vikram as great, not I am calling Sudha madam as great. They are very normal, simple people, all of us are. But it is, let us surrender ourselves to life, nature. And nature knows where it has to take you. And where it takes you, wherever it takes you, it wants you to be completely switch the cycle and want you to live a normal life. That's your karma, you have to live it. Or it want to live in the highest of palace, shaking hands with the greatest of American presidents. If that is karma for you, you have to do it. Because you're not doing it for enjoyment, you're doing it for karma. Because karma wants you to be there, because you serve a larger purpose. I'm not sure whether I answered your question exactly, but this is how I think it, madam. This is how I think it and this is how I live it. Thank you.
We have time only for one question.
I have a question. My question is for Mr. Annamalai. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So just now you said you wanted to be a worry-free sleep in the farm. Uh, so after identifying the right talent people, how are you going to identify that right talented people for the next generation of your party?
It's not a very easy question, sir. Now, let us imagine somebody wants to join my party. Let us imagine my party, BJP, right now. You are a young man with a lot of achievements. You are considering BJP as a potential party for you. Now, what are the questions in front of you? Please, sir, what are the questions in front of you? Because what about the winnability of the party? Will I join the party in the first attempt? Am I going to win elections? And is Tamil Nadu conducive for BJP? These are the questions you have. But if you look at the other party, somebody is only looking at power. Maybe I will come. The symbol has got more value. It has got more votes. The chances of me winning is very high in that party. So now BJP wants a certain set of people now who will put sacrifice as the fundamental nature of their human personality. Because here, right now, the symbol value of BJP is not 35% vote share in Tamil Nadu. The symbol value of BJP in Gujarat is 54%. Because Narendra Modi ji chose at one point of time to do all the heavy lifting. 1985 to 94 as organizing secretary, general secretary, all in the organizing secretary. Then 2001 as chief minister. Because now the symbol value is less. But the first quality I'm looking at somebody is, can you sacrifice yourself in the process? You might not get anything in the next 20 years. You might not get anything. You might lose multiple elections. But still, all we need for Dhamik revival in Tamil Nadu is one time you have to bring BJP to power. That's it. One time people should see. That one cycle. But for that one cycle to happen, it is generations that has to put their heart and soul. Generations have to put. So we are looking at that kind of people who are selfless, not expecting anything, totally surrender. Whenever it happens, it happens. At least I am not benefiting, my future generations will benefit. So that is the main quality we are looking now. I hope and pray a lot of people are in that similar mindset. Thank you, sir.
Namaskaram. It was an honor to listen to the distinguished speakers. I have questions for each of you. Vikramji, you had mentioned that as a child, you were outside the history class and not really interested. What sparked your interest in history? And where do you envision Indian history to be in the world history? And to Annamalai sir, tonight I'm leaving for Karur and it gives me happiness that it is your place of birth. I'm leaving for Karur because I'm trying to bring two main pillars of Indian civilization, which is Bharatanatyam and Bhagavad Gita together, to bring the essence chapter-wise. And I feel that's my calling. It's not just for me, but that every educational and cultural institutions across the world should have this form of teaching. So for an artist like me, who loves our culture, what suggestion would you have to bring all these, this dimension of learning, the spiritual aspect, as well as the art and culture in various education institutions?
To your question, Pavitraji, that, I was that boy who never liked history as it was taught, as I mentioned. But then, as he mentioned, I think there's some forces at play which determine your destiny. There was, I don't know how many of you remember, there was a serial those days on Doordarshan called Sword of Tipu Sultan by Sanjay Khan. And I think if I have to credit someone for my literary career, it is Sanjay Khan, though quite unexpectedly. So there, if you remember, the Maharaja of Mysore was shown, the Wadiyar was shown as this obese, retard who was dancing with the court dancer. Then the Maharani was one of those typical, Ekta Kapoor serial vamps who are all the time conspiring and conniving and so on. So somewhere, there were lots of protests in different parts of Karnataka, about this. And these were spontaneous, apolitical, not led by any political party, because even to this day, after 75 years of the, independence and the so-called, extinction of the royal family of Mysore was one of the most progressive, rulers that the nation has seen, along with Travancore and other kingdoms, which did so much. I mean, all the firsts that Karnataka had to its credit was thanks to the benevolent Maharajas of Mysore, their divans like Sir M. Vishweshwaraya, Mirza Ismail, and so many others. And today, southern Karnataka is a powerhouse, economic, growth house, and also cultural melting pot. It was an osmosis of all cultures: Hindustani music, Carnatic music, Western music, different dance forms, all of that being patronized. It was thanks to them. And, even when the last Maharaja of the dynasty passed away a few years ago, the entire city of Mysore just shut down voluntarily. Nobody asked them to, or it was not a hartal given by anybody or anything. So somewhere that apple cart had been upset. And even my parents, who didn't know much about Mysore history or something, they said, how could they show Krishnaraj Wadiyar in this manner and so on? So as a child who was seeing this, I was quite, disturbed. And I said, I really need to know the truth behind this false representation. And from then on, at the age of 12 or 13, began a series of journeys to Mysore. I really don't know. I have no connection to Mysore otherwise. It is some prarabdha that takes you there, I think. And for the next 10 years, even while I was writing my entrance exam, my board exam, the JEE, BITS Pilani, all these things, this Mysore bug was with me all the time. Every vacation meant troubling my parents to take me to this place, meeting the palace, archivists, historians, members of the royal family. Never, with the intention that I will write a book, it will become a bestseller, it will do this and that. Like today, I think a lot of authors, they plan their career. Whereas here it was serendipity and, as he said, surrender to a larger cause that is taking you on a path. And then over the 10 years, I had the interest magnified beyond that one king and queen to the entire dynasty. Like the Ahoms I mentioned, the Wadiyars also ruled for 600 years, from 1399 to 1947. And so many, credits, first to their credit. But when I saw that there was no book written on them at all in the modern times, the first initial comments that I said about how our historiography is so skewed, where South India doesn't feature, the Wadiyars in the larger national narrative, nobody probably even knows who they are. So there was this quote of Toni Morrison, the Nobel laureate, who said, if there is a book that you want to read and it has not been written yet, you must be the first one to write it. So I think there was this need for writing this book on the Wadiyars and the Mysore kings, and that's how, after 10 years of research, which was Swanta Sukhaya. It was not with any agenda, which was not with any kind of this thing. But once you do that surrender, life took me on a completely different path. I was stuck in a boring corporate job, sitting at Excel sheets and thinking, what am I doing with my life? Am I just looking at, profits for an American company, and then one day I will just drop down dead? But then one led to the other, and while I was researching on the Mysore Wadiyars, I came across this mention of this wonderful artist there called Gauhar Jan, who was a visiting musician who died there in 1930. She lived there for 2 years. She was the first gramophone celebrity of this country, who recorded her voice when gramophone technology came to India in 1902. Her story somehow, immediately captivated my mind. Again, I don't know. So I think that humility that comes with it, that you are not doing anything. Somebody is just guiding you through this path. And at that instant, I said, I'm going to research about this lady. Now, here was a lady who was a courtesan, a Tawayef from Calcutta. No legal heirs, no successors, no students, no family, nothing. And I have no clue how to go about it. It was literally like looking for a needle in a haystack, looking for her story. But then I chased her literally through the length and breadth of India the next 4 years, like a literal, Sherlock Holmes journey. Went to Azamgarh, Banaras, Darbhanga, Rampur, Calcutta, then Mysore, Madras, Bombay, London, even Germany, Berlin, where the recording agent came from. And it was like you're consumed by that madness that I have to get this story out. And fragments start showing up when I think you put in the effort. The universe also somewhere conspires to show you the path. And again, nothing that you do. You're just allowing things to happen and just be available to the existence to do that. And then that book really changed my life. That was the one that got me all these awards. It got me, on the path of setting this archive of Indian music and so on. And when I just went to give a talk about something like this in Australia, they said, you have done so much work, why don't you do a PhD? So one thing led to the other, and then that gave me the confidence to throw away the job that I had, which was sapping my soul somewhere, to actually have the courage to take up what I love, which was history, which was writing. And so that's how this journey very, very serendipitously, as they say, progressed. Wow.
Madam, we have some of our Chennai's finest vocalist, finest violinist sitting here in front of us, including you. Aruna Saira Madam is there, Ganesh Rajagopalanji is there, the famous Ranjani Gayatri sisters are here. So your brother, to answer your question, ma'am, his brother was my neighboring person in the same flat. The day we were going to search for a flat, I asked that person who's staying here. He said, Kumaresh ji is staying, famous violinist. Then I told my wife, it's a double bonus. We get a flat next to Kumaresh ji. Whenever they play violin, we get to hear it also in the morning. And Madam used to conduct classes for students and all. So we get that free concert. In the apartment, we request them to do free concerts for them. The reason I'm telling you this, Madam, I firmly believe every person should grow with music. They should grow with it. They should be surrounded by music. It somehow wires your neural network the right way. It somehow makes sure your mind develops in a very, very good spirit. But now, some of the best schools where they are asking us for recommendation for admissions, they come to our office, they read letters. Those schools have got music as a curriculum. They got drama as a curriculum, literature as a curriculum. Those schools. Now the concept of schools, one seat, some 200 people are applying. Now many a time when they see that letter before I recommend, only thing is I stop myself. So what if I recommend to this guy, there is a government school student somewhere, maybe the same talent and pedigree, he or she doesn't have the exposure to music. The greatest disservice that we as a nation have done is in the field of education. That we haven't exposed our children to music. 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade in government school, hire teachers, teach them music. Thereby make sure they become better, good individuals. I think that is the need of the hour, madam. We are also developing as a nation. We are about $3.1 trillion now. So in a matter of 3 years, we are going to hit $5 trillion, meaning we are going to overtake Germany and Japan. We'll become the 3rd largest economy. So 2030, we are going to hit $8 trillion economy. So there is America, there is China, there is India. After 2030, it is going to be a 3-horse race. Then possibly we should overtake China, maybe by 2047, 45, we are somewhere there. Because China is too big as of now. It's already $13 trillion. Now with economic prosperity also, the arts thrive. For all countries where arts have thrived, first came the economic prosperity, then followed the attention for fine arts and music and everything. So I hope and pray nothing is lost, madam. I know many of you perform for the joy of it. People here perform at the greatest of stages and the biggest of arenas and the greatest of places they do. But not for money, not for fame. I think you all have transcended that. You have surrendered to a larger cause. That is why nature is making you to, your voice is entertaining crores of people. So many of you are doing this with somehow a noble thing in mind. There comes a time the whole of India would learn it. The whole of India would speak in the language of music. I think the time is coming. The more prosperity is coming our way, then naturally we are progressing as a nation that is above middle class, then the music will start entering everywhere. So that's how I see it, ma'am. Till then, we just have to go through that grind. For that, madam cannot stop Bharatanatyam, madam cannot stop Bhagavad Gita. Even if Karur, my hometown, tomorrow I hope a great attendance comes. The land of Karur, which built the great, magnificent, the Tanjore temple, the big temple that he wrote for Rajaraja Cholan. It was designed and the concept was given by the saint called Karurar and Karur. So he gave the initial design. And Karurar Samadhi is in Karur. So a lot of noble, great people live in Karur. They have lived in Karur. So tomorrow audience for you doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You are performing for the sake of art. And the soil is breathing, it is all observing. It will explode any moment. It's a matter of 30, 40 years. India will reclaim its old glory back. It's a matter of time. That's how it's a matter of time. Hello.